Okay. And since the last one I recorded to the cloud, I haven't been able to find it yet, or I found it, but I've got to take it into OpenShot Editor to be able to upload it onto the channel up to YouTube and that. So it's like this one I'll just record to the computer.
Do you have an option then? Because this is going to come up for me when I do my work tomorrow to decide where the recording goes when you opt to at the end of the meet. Is that something that happens at the end of the meeting?
No, you can choose to go to record to the cloud or to record to the computer at the outset of the meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, guess I'll cross that bridge.
And then Zoom will close. It'll convert it to an MP4, and then it'll go either place. And EJ was talking about sending it to the cloud so you don't eat up your computer, but it looks like there's a couple of extra steps that's required to when you do that, and still learning that part of it.
Okay. Well, welcome to us.
Yes. Well, it always starts
today
small.
that we have hopefully Viento joining us next week. And wonder if Jayesh will
pop in,
get some supplies. What are we going to do today?
Well, I thought we'd make some more links. I feel like there's as I was doing it, there were a couple of things that I discovered, and I could also show how to use a smaller wire, what you need to do using a smaller gauge wire than 16. So I made some earrings.
I have a question right out the gate that relates, because I made a pair of earrings using 20 gauge.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that the links are falling out.
And that's the trick.
I'm going to go grab those.
Okay.
I'm going to go grab those. Okay. Okay.
So I'm gonna grab some 20 gauge wire. But
Eric, did you also want to make me co-host just so we know what that process is?
Oh, yeah, I do, but I have to do it from the meeting, and so or from setting up the meeting. I've been looking for it on here. If I could do,
I think you might be able to click on me under participants. You just see if that gives you the option.
It doesn't give me the option. Oh, wait. Make host. Yeah. Do you want to, well, it would change it to you then, but maybe maybe your connection's more stable. So let's try changing it to you.
Okay, we can always change it back.
Yeah, so now you're the host.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still recording, so that works. Okay. So here's the secret for making.
Well, all right.
What? So here's the secret for making 20 gauge work.
What do you have there?
This is a hammer, and this is an anvil. So I forget, but this is a Fretz, F-R-E-T-Z hammer, and it's number 417. And so this will run you about $50 or something like that. And then
417. Wait, let me make a note of this as you're going along. Fretz, FRETZ 417.
Yeah, and there's a specific name for the hammers have different names, but offhand I don't remember it. Let me get my other hammer. So then I also have, here's a more traditional anvil. And here's another Fretz hammer, but you can see
Oh, okay. I was going to say it looks very similar, but you could hold them up in such a way that they look identical.
so this
bring the one in the one hand closer.
This is a number 20.
There we go. Wait, there it was. Yeah, this one. Bring this one closer. Wait, here. Other one. Right. To wait, there. Oh, you got the illusion. Wait, back a little. Back. There. Same size now.
Yeah.
Just have to hide your hands down so that your fingers don't get away.
And here's the little anvil. And here's a little, what's this one? This is a Fretz. And Rio Grande will have these. You can just look up Fretz tools. And you can get cheaper ones. But the hold, how these feel in your hands, is so different. I've ruined one of these already, by the way, so there are some tricks. And so let me go grab a row of 20 gauge copper wire. And a couple other things. Cutter and pliers. So cutter and pliers. I feel like this is like show and tell, you know? It's like I'm back to when I was in 3rd grade or 2nd grade. And I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. And it's okay. It really feels that way. It's like I'm having a lot more fun thinking of it that way rather than this, serious business. But anyway, like here's a pair of earrings that I did.
Nice. Are those, no, those are not the dye. I think you added dye to.
Yeah, these are antique Czech dice beads.
Oh, they are the dye that
they
I'm
are the
thinking
dye
of.
ones. And the bottom here is titanium beads, gold plated titanium. And the link is 22 gauge gold fill.
Wow.
So, getting back to what we were talking about, those links coming apart, these would come apart too. So, but I got that photo shoot coming up on Saturday, so I wanted to get a few things just photographable. So I'm going to use this one, this hammer, and this little chasing hammer. I think that's the name.
Are you reworking those ones now?
No, I'm not going to.
Or you will be in some fashion?
Yeah, I probably will keep them like that, and rework them at some point. But when I sell some, I'll probably just make new ones. So that
Mhm.
way, but they do need to be reworked because they will not last that way. So I'm going to take this 20 gauge, and like that's 22 gauge. You can use 22 in silver. You can use it in gold fill. Um, I think 20 might be the limit on copper because the metals are different strengths.
Oh,
The other
sure. Okay,
thing
the
is,
copper's weaker than the silver or
yes,
gold.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. And
Or
so,
yeah,
like with a,
softer.
I did a necklace with the technique, and actually got one that I've got to do the hammering on set aside that I want to get photographed. But I just wanted to go through the whole thing so you'd see it. Uh, I'm going to grab my ruler just because what I was doing is figuring out if I did those earrings in 18 karat gold, that's 18 karat. When I looked at it, it was $2 an inch. So I was figuring out the inches that it would take. So I'm going to cut this 20 gauge at 1.5 inches because I want to make the small link. I'm basically duplicating the link that I was just showing with these earrings, which is a smaller.
Sorry, are you saying it's the same length or that's slightly different? The
This
inch and a half.
this 1.5 inches is the same length as this link on here, which is a smaller, more delicate
Okay.
link.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
you're working 18 karat.
no, I'm working copper, but I wanted,
Copper.
I wanted to figure out, I wanted to cost what it would do if somebody wanted this done in 18 karat gold. And so that's why
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
figuring out I have my little list
You're using that length.
someplace under all this stuff that I threw aside because none of it would work. So here's my my calculations for making these lucky die earrings. And basically, like if you noticed on them,
14 length,
I have
7 and 7.
yeah. So and 7 is the number.
1, 2,
Is
3, 1, 2. Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
I'm
1,
just
2, 3,
showing you that I can
4.
count.
Well, now
1,
it's
2, 3.
always great to know the education level of who you're working with and what they're. So 7 was because I looked at the numbers for craps, and so 7 being a lucky die rather than having them be symmetrical. 1 at 3 and 1 at 4 gives me 7. 7 links.
It's nice. It gives it a nice drop,
Okay.
the asymmetry.
Okay. So now we have our 1.5 inch long piece of copper wire. And I'm going to make sure both of these edges are flush cut, which means I'm going to trim the one. There. So now here's your bare wire, here's your plain wire. So now what I'm going to do is make a loop on each end. So I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to do a tribal style loop, not a lollipop sort of loop.
Now you'll have to bring that up to the camera when you're done. Okay, so tribal means that you're not creating that kind of Y at the base,
Yeah, that one.
which makes it look like a lollipop.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now,
All right. So that's useful piece of information jargon wise. That's
yeah,
a tribal loop.
yeah.
Okay.
And so now I have this little, whatever you want to call it.
Always looks like a snowshoe. or an elf shoe, not a snowshoe.
Is that a better contrast? Is that viewable better that way?
Yeah, I could see it either way.
Okay. Yeah, let's see what's.
It looks like a little pom-pom on the end of an elf shoe.
I'll go with that. So this is a non-skid kind of mouse pad that and then I'll take, so I'll put that on my platform. And then I'll take my anvil and put that on top of the non-skid mouse pad. Then I'm going to take my hammer. Let's see once if this. So this is pretty. Can you see what's happened to the loop?
Not so well because there's, it's just a little bit pixelated. It looks pretty similar from that angle.
Okay.
The resolution is not that high.
Okay. So
try bringing it in a little closer. Yeah, that definitely doesn't help. Do you want to describe what it does? Has it flattened it?
It has flattened it. So, well, here,
Okay.
Let's do this. Can you see a difference?
Yeah, I can start to make that out. And I'm familiar with what happens when you hammer out the metal. So I've seen that in real life.
Okay, so that's what you're doing. Basically, you're stressing the metal by flattening it, and that's going to give it a rigidity. So let's take this, and now we'll flatten the other side. And one time I was flattening some 16 gauge, and I just said, well, I'm going to just wail on this thing. And wow, did I get raked over the coals with EJ. It was like, what did you do? Because it was really kaboom, 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 kaboom. So that's why this is a very light sort of procedure. You're not beating it into submission. You're just sort of tapping it into the form that's going to be more stable. Okay.
This is 20 gauge, just to review for folks.
Yes, this is 20 gauge. And here is both ends flattened. So you probably know what comes next. Yes?
I would guess that gonna go midway or further up on your round nose pliers.
Maybe. Yeah, so now you see how it's sitting here. So what I'll do.
So normally our time up first and then made the loop. So this is a procedural difference.
Yes. And it's also procedurally different because the bend is going like this. And if you'd done it at first, you'd be doing it this way. So without the flattening, you would use the bend, but this way, so you have to be.
You'd use the bend.
Yeah. So this way you're going against the bend, more like an ear wire that you're making at 90 degrees. So I'll take this. And let's see how that works.
And then bring it back to the camera. So on the,
So that,
okay,
so what you see is that
okay, they're not quite lined up as
they're not
you
lined up
might.
at all. Yeah, but that's okay. Uh, you know, that's how, if like I could have really grasped it with the pliers, but then I think I would have scored the metal a little bit more. So I can work with this because I can just take this and turn this and turn that. And now we're getting closer.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of score in the link, but I wanted to kind of see, can I bend it? But now looking at it and I'm going, and how that worked, I don't really care. I'm not going to, from what I determined from this, I'm not going to try to hold it tightly. I'm just going to let it bend. And and it'll bend with the two loops. Look like a praying mantis now. It'll bend with the two loops coming in like that. But then you can just turn that and then you won't score the link at all. So now we're getting closer.
You back up a tiny bit there.
Yeah.
You did that on purpose?
I did what on purpose?
You're saying next time you would do it that way? Or,
yes,
and you'd get less scoring?
I would do it that way again, but I would not care. Like I was trying to put a certain amount of force that it didn't move, but not overly doing it so that I knew I would compress it. So I tried to find a balance, but there's still a little bit of scoring, and now I'm not going to care about the balance. I'm just going to hold it, and it'll have the two loops like like I showed first, and then I'll just bend them. Is that, am I making sense?
Well, yeah, but it might be something worth reviewing. I'm I mean, I could try it without the hammering process.
Yeah,
I don't have the hammer.
you like to use the smaller gauge. That's why, like, when EJ started with the 16 gauge, that's strong enough to stay in place. Anything less than that, you're going to need to hammer.
Right, right.
So
I don't know if I can't do the hammering, but I could try making the loops and then do the fold
yeah,
in.
yeah,
Just to see if we can clarify what you're saying. Maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity. Should we try? I can try it.
yeah. See, it's clear in my mind, but but that's only
Butters, by the way.
You
Sorry?
got pliers? I said, oh, it's clear in my mind, but that's in my mind. You know, that's not the purpose. It's just like transmission.
Yeah.
So you got a pliers or
okay, so I've got pliers. So let me go through the same process and then see without the hammering. Yeah, I got the JSP PL 9141 from Walmart via the mail that EJ recommended. Okay. So I haven't even used, well, no, I used them last night for something, but
I don't have that model. You have to tell me how you like it.
I will. Okay. Let's see what happened to my ruler. Well, I've got a ruler. I use a mat here that has ruler. So I'm going 1.5 inches, correct?
Yeah, that gives you a smaller link. So if you want to go a bigger link for a bigger necklace, you can do that.
I'm going to do exactly what you did, minus the hammering. All right, so I've got my piece, and it's got a little bit of a bow in it.
Okay.
And I'm going to, oh, I also got a new pair of round nose pliers. Because I have you know, I've had these tools, but the tools I had were not that great. So now I've got, let's see, a pair of Lindstrom round nose pliers. These are model RX 7590. Okay. I'm going for the tribal loop. There's one, just to,
Looks good.
oh, I need light. That's better. All right. How have I done, Master Eric?
That looks good. Are the both ends flush cut? Are the ends tight?
Yeah.
Because when you're making this loop, you want to have those ends tight. They'll spring
Well,
apart as you hammer them.
there's about a millimeter distance there. I don't know if I can get it any. Well, in theory. There's a tiny, tiny space.
Okay. It's unimportant now. So
Okay.
now, why don't you take that? Let's assume that you've hammered this, okay?
Okay.
And now bend it in half.
And now, all right, I've got it there.
Yeah.
I should get rid of my background here. I'm in this, I mean, it looks like I'm in a dreary garage. It's really not a dreary. I've got a nice space out here, but the camera angle is such that it just looks like the ceiling. Hang on. Okay, actually.
Turn it. There, okay. And it helps when you talk, if you talk as you're showing it, because that way I don't have it pinned, and so who's ever talking is what goes. So when you show it, if you want to
Okay,
chitter chatter,
I will talk so that my image comes up on the screen. So hang on. I'm gonna hold it carefully so you can see it from the side. And then I'm gonna pivot to see the bottom. And then you can see that the loops are angled in a little bit towards each other.
Mm-hmm. So now what you can do is you take the pliers and twist them so you take the pliers at the loop gently, and then you just untwist them so they're even.
And then pull them back in closer.
Yeah, you see, you'll get a rhythm of how that works for you.
Okay.
But I'm just like, at this point, step by step, you'll feel like when I was working on these the earrings, I discovered a whole thing about how to bend it. And so that's one of the things I was going to talk about too today is like, oh, look, first we did this, but now I noticed that if you do this, this will work fine. And so that's later. But since we got started on this, now you
I
got
should show this.
Hmm?
Let me show this and talk it through. So here again is the side view. And then here's the bottom view. And that's now they're parallel. They look parallel.
They look good. So I'm going to bend this a little closer. And
I'll do the same. Ooh, look at that. That came out really well.
yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Now, here's where what we were talking about last week comes into play. When you have this flattened, when you have your loop flattened, you want to then take the end of the loop and you're going to pull this out. And then you pull the other one in the same direction.
Oh, I see. I got mine really pressed in close to each other.
That doesn't make a difference.
You've got space.
Because you're coming out to the side. Yeah, I had space because I had hammered it. So when I started it, I had it right up tight. Then I hammered it, and the hammering process created that space. But then subsequently,
Let's see. Can I see that again?
yeah, I'm trying to get it on the cam. There we go. So now you see, because it's flattened, you have to go to the side. You don't want to bend it back the opposite direction of the loop. You're bending it to the side. It doesn't weaken the wire. It doesn't give it a strange kink.
We talked about that last time, and you're talking about not opening up the loop.
Exactly. The
You're
hammering.
Not pulling, not reversing the loop to open it up.
Correct.
Taking it to the side instead.
Correct. Because, and you'll notice that once you get a hammer and anvil and you start with it, you'll notice that when you try to do it with a hammered loop, it doesn't work well at all.
Okay. Just out of interest, since mine is so like tight in there, close,
yeah,
together, should I not aim for that at this? I pulled them in too close together. I maybe should have left it.
I do that at the last step. So my last step is putting it together.
Pushed it right in.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna open this guy up. Whoop, I'm pulling probably from the wrong side. Let's see.
And the hammering technique, that is that's the $1 million secret for working with wire. And
I'm so excited that you brought that up. I've always wanted to learn how to do that. And
well,
I didn't even want to ask.
You brought it up. You said, hey, this doesn't work. And I said, oh, yeah.
All right, I've got it.
So I wish I have some pieces someplace, but everything's in storage. But let me grab a part of a necklace once. Okay, so I'm making a linked turquoise, amber, pearl, and gold necklace. And so you see I have lollipops on there. So what I'm going to do is, I think I will just take all the beads off. So then I have my lollipop here. And I'm going to hammer this. And you can see that that's opened up the end a little bit.
Yeah.
But what that does when you have this as a necklace, that flattened side or that flattened lollipop gives you a lot more reflection. So the light play off the metal is so much
Mm.
greater. It's beautiful. It really, um,
Hmm.
it's it's really really great. Which is why, and it's smaller. You're not doing the wraps, which we haven't gotten into yet. But you're not doing wraps, so
Mhm.
you are shortening the link actually. So now I will put the elements back on.
Is it going to be important when you link that to its the next element that you close that off?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in that process, when I'm actually linking them together, that's when I'm going to do the closing, which is why I said that when you're hammering and that tribal loop expands, don't worry about it at that point, because it's when you put the link together is when you're going to work with that. So now I've got my element here, which is a pearl, a gold-filled daisy, some turquoise, another gold-filled daisy bead, and a pearl. And you can see the reflective properties
Yeah, it
of
looks great.
that versus here's the uh, here's the round one.
Yeah.
Notice the difference.
Is that gold?
It's gold fill.
Gold fill, yeah. That, yeah. Yeah, the hammering really punches something.
It does, doesn't it?
Punch.
You know, when you're making, like, if you have you done any of the pendants, the abstract, or have you seen those, the
Well,
abstract?
no, that's why I have one that Claude made, and you know, I just thought, I hope someday I get to learn how to do that. And
Oh,
here I am.
grab your 16 gauge, okay?
Okay.
Let's play. So just cut I don't know, this is going to be about a 4-inch piece. You can choose whatever length you want to use. But see, this is, there's like a couple different things where you can just go, oh, okay.
You broke up a little bit, Eric. You
Oh,
broke up.
the fun about this,
Sorry, Eric, you're breaking up.
oh yeah, it says my internet connection is unstable. All right, so flush cut.
Well, I can hear you now. You were saying
Oh,
you
the
were
fun thing
saying
about it,
the fun about this or something.
yeah, is like you get inspired to do something, you can just go, oh, I wonder if this will work. And with the copper, you just grab some copper and go, okay, let's try this. And then you get back to doing the task at hand. But so let's just put, uh, so I got this piece of wire here, about 4 inches, 16 gauge. I
I've
flush
got one
cut it.
too.
I flush cut it
Mm-hmm.
on each side. Now, if I wanted, I think I'm going to change my mind,
I
and I'm going to use
I
the
flush cut
angled.
mine too.
So I'm going to change it and put an angled in back on one side. So now I've got,
Show me that. I'm not sure what you mean.
okay. So on one side, I'm using the flush edge to make the wire square off. On the other end, I'm going to use the beveled side to make the wire go into a point like this. If you look at the edge of the wire, it has a point to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to take the,
I question at that point.
yeah,
Question. because I've got the little, the bow in the
Doesn't make a difference.
wire, does it make sense to flush cut that so that the angled bit goes with that? Like,
Sure.
I would
I
think
mean,
it would.
necessary.
Or not. Or maybe
necessary.
you wanted to sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Go. No. I like this. So I don't have a problem with just chatting back and forth. So go ahead.
I'm wondering if actually if I should do it perpendicular to that, so that, because if I'm going to be coiling this around in different ways and then ultimately hammer it like later down the line, I want those it's like a little, what are we going to call that? What do you call it?
A bevel end?
The bevel, the flat part of the bevel to be along the plane that is being hammered.
It's a level of detail that is useful, but not necessary.
All right. Okay, well, I'll try that.
So in other words,
and then I'll see.
In other words, what I'm saying is your experience in doing it, you're going to find what you really like and say, okay, this actually works good. I'm going to do this. And in other times you might say, this was a good idea, but is it necessary? So it's like washing test tubes, it's like 3 times gets most of it out, 30 times is kind of a waste of your time. So you're going to learn how you like on the level of detail, like what you brought up and how you hold the wire in that thinks like you're thinking the way I think, actually. So it's like I would go with that and then see how that works for you. So I don't
Sure. I know, and I know that some people don't anticipate. That's just how my mind works. I'm just like trying to anticipate what's going to be an ideal, and I don't want my thinking to interfere with anybody else's process, like not to get hung up in the way that I it's not that I'm hung up. I just I tend to try to think things through ahead of time, and I know that other people tend to just really learn by doing and not worrying as much about what the effects and discoveries are made that way too.
I think it's good. So keep thinking like that. So now I'll take the pliers and I'm going to put a lollipop in the flush cut end. So I'll take this.
Okay.
I want to do a big lollipop. So I'm going to rotate that around, then bend it back, what you called the Y, then tighten up that lollipop. And so something.
Would you review how you do the bend back?
Yeah.
I've got just the tribal. I mean, I did it myself before, but I don't know that I really had the right technique.
So after you curl it, you kind of estimate where to hold.
Okay, so I should switch the grip over to here.
Yeah. And then bend it back.
Okay.
And it takes a little practice learning where to grip that. And then you can always, like now, I've got it here. Can't see what I'm showing.
Okay.
And I'm gonna bend it a little bit more. So I'm gonna just drop this onto the needle nose, and I'm gonna just kind of move my wrist and tighten that up a little bit, and that's straightening it up.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got something mine's a little wonky, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's practice. So do you have anything that's a circular form? Like I have this piece of tubing here, And I find this is easy, like somebody more skilled than me might just use the pliers. I like to go with this because
Mhm.
it's just easier to handle. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to play with it and go, okay, let's see. And I'm thinking, like easeful, sinuous sorts of moves, not abrupt angles on this particular thing. So I'm going to grab it and pull it like this. And I'm not going to be too I'm not bringing my mind into it too much to see what's going to happen with this, because and I'm just kind of letting my body work. And this may work, it may not, I mean. So now I've wound up with this.
Okay, I'm right behind you.
Okay, good. And I am
Almost.
completely unimpressed
I'm
with what I've done.
I'm not unimpressed with what you've done.
And
I'm using a pen, by the way.
okay. And you, like I said, you can do it with the pliers as well. Uh, but I just like to open it up a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Now,
Yeah.
take
Okay.
take it and put it on the edge of your pliers and see how that hangs. How do
There.
you like it?
Hey, ours look very similar.
So now, what do I want to do with this? Do I like it? I'm not that in. It just doesn't. It's not. It's not really doing it for me. So I want to change this pennant here. So I'm going to grab it right at the edge, right at the edge of the loop. I'm going to bend that back more. And so now I've got that hanging a little
Yeah.
bit more this way.
I'm gonna try that too, because mine looks like a snake, and it has a similar situation with the top. Although I kind of like that.
Okay. Well, that's the important
I
thing.
think I'm gonna still do what. Yeah, I think I'm gonna still do that because I like the idea that when it hangs on the loopy loop, that it's not too close to where the
Bring
link
it
is
up higher.
opening.
There you, yeah. There we go. Now talk. That's
So
it. Thank you.
there.
So what do you think about that? How do you like it? Like, is this a good thing? Like, are you happy with it?
Well, what I was saying is that I might want to shift, create another bend right here, just so that when it's hanging, the hang happens more at the top of the loop, not on the side, so it's not so close to where the link is closing itself off.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try one more bend back. Well,
I've got this choice to make. I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay. I want to do something with his tail here. And I can curl it around like this or curl it down like that. So I'm going to play with this and I'm going to bring it up. So I've got this sort of thing.
nice.
So now I'm going to take my bigger hammer and I'm just going to work some of these these loops. So I have this now, and so now it's been flattened out a little bit. And I've been flattening it on here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
That gives it a lot more rigidity. So it's nice that, so it's pretty stable. Now I'm going to take my smaller hammer and I'm going to work this little point inside here.
So you were using a larger hammer initially?
I used the larger one initially because I had large surface areas. And this way, the smaller hammer gives me a little bit better definition. And so here's what we got. So I flattened that bevel edge out, and that gives me more of a paddle.
Looks good.
And now, because I want to have a little bit more light reflective properties, I'm going to take the small edge and I'm going to stipple. Now, if you're using something like 16 gauge and making bigger links, you could do components of this process and create a very different looking link, right? So now,
What do you mean there? What do you mean by components?
I don't know. I talk off the top of my head. So basically, if you're using, like, if you want to make a fancier link, you could do everything we did with with the flattening, the stippling, and then you'd have a different looking link for, like, if you had like large beads like this. But here's this piece after I've done some stippling on it. Notice.
I love this stippling.
And some things you'll do and you go, oh, that might be fun. And, but the stippling gives you a lot more surfaces for light reflection. And it kind of looks, another way of looking at it is it'd be distressed. So you have a distressed type of metal. Now, do I like where it is? Not really. So what I'm going to do is just kind of do this. And I like this one more.
Did you hammered out the loop at the top?
No, the loop I did not hammer.
No, you didn't.
No.
What's that? You did not. Would you do that?
Sure. No. If I wanted to.
You could do.
You could.
You could do that.
Yep. And in certain applications, I definitely would do that.
Now I still am trying to follow what you were saying before about it being a component in a necklace. Like, do you mean that you could include that as an element in a necklace. And you might do two links on either on
Well,
either end. That would be neat.
let let me answer that in two ways. The first and easiest answer is yes. The second, referring to what I was talking about, is like in the like using a process as a component. So if we were making the
Hmm.
going back and using 16 gauge and making chain links, you could uh, make those loops and then stipple
Oh,
and flatten and then bend it.
the whole
So
thing.
now you've got a whole different look to the link,
Yeah.
which I think might be a very, very cool look. I mean, thinking about finishing up this piece, that might be fun to try because it would give the metal a lot more reflective surface, a lot more work,
Yeah, I
but
am really a fan of the that look. I would probably overdo it. I want to stipple everything once I
well,
the hammer.
you will until you kind of go, this one doesn't feel quite right for stippling. And you take,
Mm.
an interesting thing is when we're making earrings of the Atlantean style, I would stipple some and I would stipple and not others. And then I'd put them both out for sale. And some people really liked the stippled look, some people didn't like it. So, it's what to me it's kind of like you have a sense of play when you're building it, and the piece speaks to you because you're making it for someone. So every piece that you make is is there's an idea that somebody out there, this piece is for them, and
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
letting that process kind of guide you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So this
Yeah.
is what I'm ending up with on this guy. And, this might be fun to put an ear wire on and have an abstract hearing. In fact, here, we're a few minutes over, but we got started a few minutes late. So let me just,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, unless
All
if you
right.
got to go, you got to go. But
I,
otherwise,
I wrap up after your next demo. If it's a mini demo, is
it's
it
a
a mini
mini demo.
demo?
Yeah. So we won't go into the deep
Okay.
details because that's actually it's time for another. It's so here I got. Piece of 20 gauge copper, and I'm going to hold it like this, bend it around like this, bend it back, and I'm going pretty fast, so I got this kind of deal. And then
Mm-hmm. I know where you're going with this. You're going to do a wrap now.
I'm going to do a wrap now. So 1, 2, 3.
And we can do that slower maybe on another occasion.
That's exactly what. And now I'm going to trim the wings. So yes, definitely. So now I have a bent wrapped
Mm-hmm.
loop. Now
Yeah.
I'm going to take my little tube here and I'm going to hold it this way. I'm going to bring that around. Then so I've got this going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Looks like
now
an ear wire.
it does, doesn't it? And now we'll bend this back a little bit here. So we have a little bit of a step. So now I've got this guy going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll take my little tube here, bend it forward a little bit more. So I've got this. And I think this is going to be a little longer than what I want. So I'm going to flush cut it toward the loop. I'm going to snip that off. Now I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to bend this back. like there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my ear wire. Now I'm going to take this on the anvil. I'm going to stabilize this bottom part here to give it some rigidity. I don't have my punch, but otherwise I would stabilize it here. You do not want to hammer on this because it sharpens it and it'll cut into the ear. So now I've got this,
Okay.
I've got this. Let's take this and bend this way.
To the side. To the side.
To
To
the
the side.
side. You got it. And let's see, when I look at these, I go, okay, am I going to make this into a pair? Are they going to be right hand, left hand? How are they going to work? Can they wear them either way with a different look? And so here's an abstract stippled copper modernist earring.
Just like that.
Lots of, you get this copper in the sunlight, man, does it shine. All right. Since it looked like an earring to me, I just thought let's go ahead and build one.
Thank you so much, Eric.
You're welcome. So until next week, and we'll get some more of the process worked out. So when we have people joining us, it'll be easier to manage.
I'm going to be in Sequoia next week.
Okay.
So
I'm totally jealous.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. There's snow.
Awesome.
So
okay.
If you and Viento are here, I'll watch and then I'll rejoin you the following week.
All right. Have a great time. And let's sign off.
Ciao.
Bye.